Hello YouTube Pipers, it's Double O Pipe here, aka Rick, and Hunter just got up like you might want to go outside. You want to go outside? No, false alarm. He doesn't want to go outside. I am back to my Savinelli Bing's favorite and Captain Black Royal. I smoked some of this yesterday and I really liked it a lot more than I did that burley that I was trying. Plus, I just packed it like I normally do, whether it's right or wrong. That gravity method didn't work for me because I don't know whether the bits of tobacco were too big or what, but not much fell down in there, and it was ash within just a few minutes. So that might work for you, Smarty Bob, but for me, I'm just gonna pack it in. And as long as I got some air coming through there without having to pull like through a thick milkshake straw, then I'm okay with it. I forgot to mention that when I went to the grocery store the other day and came home, Hunter came up front to welcome me back. That's something new, and that's something good, because any other time he stayed in the back and waited for me to come back there to let him know that it was really me. So I was right happy that he came up front and looked up at me and made sure it was me. So that made me feel good. So that's progress. That's progress. Oy, well, September is almost over, like I said yesterday. And I forgot about starting school in September like we used to do. And the reason I say that is because a friend of mine asked me, why did you go into pharmacy? Because everybody knows that I wasn't happy in pharmacy, but it gave me a good living, and my kids and my ex benefited from it greatly, so I have no bad feelings toward it. I just did not enjoy it. Anyway, what got me into it, kind of a twisty story, so let me start at the beginning. I was in the military in Iceland, and the Vietnam War, Nixon had decided it should be over finally. It caused so much division in our country, but when it was over, the military was overpopulated. We had a lot of people in the military. And they came to me one day when I was in Iceland, and they said, would you like to get an early out? And I looked at them and I said, who do I have to kill? So I didn't like being in the military either. I thought that it would be different out in the real world, as I called it, because there was so much Mickey Mouse, as we called it, in the military. But anyway, I got an early out. But during that time that we were talking about getting out, I was up there in Iceland with my bride. And I had written to the University of West Florida about their architecture program, because my bride was from Florida. And it would have been close to her home. And it was, architecture schools are hard to find. Clemson is the only one, I think, in South Carolina, and that was a long way from anybody we knew. So anyway, I sent them all the information they needed, and they said, yes, you can come. You're accepted. And they said you might want to talk to the head of the department to see if that's really what you want to do. Well, I really wanted to go to architecture school, so I had been telling myself for the 4 years I was in the military. And here the opportunity had presented itself because they had an opening. Anyway, I got out of the military, and my bride and I traveled down to, I can't remember what town it was this university was in. I don't even think it was West Florida. I think it was just the University of Florida. And I found the Department of Architecture. And I asked to see the head of the department. And they said, you're in luck. You can go in and see him now. So I went in. He said, have a seat, Mr. Croucher. So I sat down, and he said, I was looking over your information here. It says you already have a degree. I said, yes, sir, I have one in English. He said, and you've been out of school for 4 years. You were in the military, is that correct? I said, yes, sir, I just got out of the military. I was in the Air Force. And he said, well, 2 things. You can come and you can become a member of the class of architecture starting this year. But I'll tell you something. He said, you already have a degree. There are other people who are applying here who don't have a degree. And don't you think they should get in before you? I said, I hadn't thought about that. I just wanted to get into architecture school. He said, also, you were in the military. I said, yes, sir. Is there a problem? He said, I'm not crazy about people who've been in the military. And I thought to myself, well, you must not be crazy about a lot of people, because a lot of people have been in the military because of the Vietnam War. I said, and why is that? He said, because we're in Vietnam. I said, we're not in Vietnam anymore. The war is over now. He said, I've been against that war from the beginning. I said, I know a lot of people have been. I'm included in that. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. Those 2 things are against you. And I'm the head of the department. And I'll tell you right now, you can become a student in my class, but I'm going to make it so hard for you that you won't make it. And I said, you can do that? And he said, yeah, I can do that. And I will do that. So I said, well, I thank you for the interview, and I plan to come. He said, you better be willing to work, but I can assure you, you won't make it. So my bride and I walked over to the dean's office, and I got an appointment with the dean to see him, to ask him about that, because to me it didn't seem quite fair. And I told the dean what I had been told. And he said, well, Mr. Croucher, I'm the dean of the school, but I don't have power over him to tell him to pass you. And if he says he's not going to pass you, he'll make it more difficult for you than any of the other students. And believe me, it's something you don't want to go through, because he can make it difficult. And you'll probably flunk out. So I don't know whether I would waste my money. I said, you can't do anything about that? He said, no, it's not my department. He said, I'm just the dean of the entire school. He is the man who runs that department, and what he says goes. Well, that was a pickle. I was beginning to see what I had been told about professors in the universities and their liberal views, and how they could hold a grudge against people who were in the military, though the people who went in the military were mostly those who were drafted and didn't really have a choice. But still, because they were the educators, and they were more educated than the average student who was coming into the class, their superiority in that gave them the right to do whatever they wanted. And if they did not want to reward a person who had been in the military because he did not approve of the military or the Vietnam War that we were in, then he could punish that person. So, after leaving the dean's office, my bride and I got in the car and drove to Pensacola. That was her hometown, and her mother lived there. And we went there and stayed for a while. And we discussed it, and I said, well, it doesn't seem like it would be any point in my going to architecture school up there, because he's already assured me that it would be a waste of my money and that I'd flunk out, no matter how hard I worked. So she said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I think I'll just read for a while. So I did. I bought books and just read a bunch of books that week. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. She said, you talked about med school at one time. I said, yeah, but med school, 4 years of med school, 3 years of internship, and then if you're going to specialize, that's another 2 to 3 years. I said, that's too long to be in school. She said, well, have you ever thought of pharmacy school? And I said, no. She said, my uncle's a pharmacist. Maybe he'll talk to you and tell you how difficult that would be. And I said, okay, we can go talk to him. So one evening we went over to his house, and I told him the predicament, and he said, well, why don't you go to med school? And I said, it's just too long. I can't go to school for that long. We don't have the finances for that. Plus, I need to start supporting my family. Or my wife. I don't want to be in school forever and not support her. So he told me all about pharmacy. Told me if he had it to do over again, he'd have gone to medical school. And I said, well, I don't feel like I have that choice. I said, how long did you have to go? And he said, 3 years. No, it was 4. He said 4 years, 2 years of regular college, which I already had because I had a 4-year degree. And he said, and then there's 2 more years of pharmacy school to get a BS in pharmacy. I said, I think I can handle that because that'll put me out in the workplace. So anyway, when we got back to her mother's house, I called my family and asked them if they'd get some information about the School of Pharmacy, which is here in Charleston with the Medical University. And they said they would. So the next day they gave me the phone number of the pharmacy school, and I called them up, explained the situation, that I had a college degree, and did they have any openings? And they said, yes, we have an opening. Send in all your information, transcripts and all that kind of stuff, and we'll see what we can do. So I did. They got back in touch with me and said, you're missing one thing. That's organic chemistry. It looks like you took it, but you didn't pass it. I said, what can I do about that? And they said, you can take it during the summer. And if you pass it, then you will be welcomed into the class of 70, I think it was 75. In other words, I could start that semester in September. So I said, I think I can do that. Well, I got in touch with the Citadel, who had a summer school course in organic chemistry. They accepted me, and we drove up here to Charleston, stayed with my parents while I took the course. Well, I passed it with an A. Why I couldn't have done that in college, I don't know. But anyway, with passing that, they accepted me in pharmacy school. And that is how I became a pharmacist. Kind of a roundabout circle. Anyway, like I said, I was never happy in it because I always felt like somehow I might make a mistake and hurt somebody. And I sure didn't want to do that. But from 75 until 2011, and almost 30 years of those were here at one of the hospitals. It was a good living. And my family did well. through my days in pharmacy. But that is how I became a pharmacist. Now I'm just a retired bum. But I'm okay with that. I'm enjoying sharing my home with Hunter. And we've got several things we do here. I'm attempting to get back into the art that I used to do. I've got all this art material, several easels, lots and lots of paper, lots of pencils. So I'm going to see if I can do that. I haven't done anything in a long time, but I'd like to try again. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to see how I can do. What I need to do is set up a schedule to get something accomplished. The way I am now, I'm just kind of lazing around and never really get anything accomplished. So I'm going to have to sit down and talk to myself. Say, self, you need to do something with the rest of your life. So there we have it. I appreciate you listening. Hope I didn't bore you. We got a nice day here. It's cloudy, but it's cool. Nice fall day. Ophelia passed us by, and we had the fringe winds without any of the rain. And I was happy about that. I'm sorry for the people who got the brunt of it. I hope your weekend is going well. My son came over and we spent some time together. It's always enjoyable to be around him. Like I said, his birthday is coming up next month. Take care of yourselves. Let me get my thumb over this button. Take care of yourselves. I hope you're doing well. Hope your weekend's going well. Hope your weather is nice. Take care of yourselves. God bless you until the next time. Bye-bye.